I'm joined by the amazing Allison O'Toole, Dan Price, Andre Owen, Fred Kennedy,
Chip Zdarsky. Chip, thanks for coming.
What's up? I'm your host Konrad on Wednesday Reviews, and tonight I'm joined by Stephanie Cooke to talk about her new book, Racc Pack. Stephanie, thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat and get into it.
Glad to hear it. Stephanie, just for the folks out there in YouTube land who maybe never seen your face or never heard your name.
Yeah, who am I? I am a writer and an editor. I primarily work on comic books and graphic novels. I say primarily because I do a lot of other cool stuff too. I write video games as well. I work on with a studio called Kid & Cup Studio, which is a local indie studio in Toronto. They're wonderful. We're writing a game called Pico right now and working on some other cool projects. And then back to comics and graphic novels. I do a lot of middle grade stuff. I have a series called Oh My Gods, a book called Paranorthern, a brand new book called The Racc Pack, and an upcoming young adult graphic novel called Pillow Talk. And then on top of all of that too, I write My Little Pony from time to time, and I edit. And a big thing have been working on with Tony Parker just got announced at Emerald City. It's called Medusa, and you can check out more about that at Dark Horse Comics. But Tony Parker, who's a wonderful artist, is also writing this, and it's his first time tackling the written form as well as doing the art. So it should be a really great time, and I can't wait.
You are so busy. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's always a lot going on, and I feel like I have also forgotten things, but this is me.
We'll go through all of it, and we'll get to that. That's for sure. Well, I guess. Yeah, as I mentioned, the main book I want to talk about with you tonight is Racc Pack, with the awesome tagline of "Live fast, eat trash." So, what is this wonderful, weird little book that I'm holding?
Oh my gosh! Well, I love raccoons. I know they are a divisive creature amongst Torontonians, especially, but this is my pride and joy. It is about two raccoons and a possum who thinks he's a raccoon, and they go on a heist for the best garbage ever, naturally. So they are the Bins family. They're named after garbage bins. We've got dusty bins, we've got scraps bins, and we've got recycling bins, but she goes by Riri. So that is the family, and they get into a variety of shenanigans and hijinks, and it's set here in Toronto. Very, very, very proud of that, and that's more or less like the general gist without giving a whole lot away.
Perfect. No, and that is one thing. Avoid spoilers absolutely everywhere that we can. One thing I did want to ask, because I don't think it's spoilers, but one thing that on the show I like to help promote is Canadian creators, and of course, Stephanie, you are Canadian. So as geographically precise as you're comfortable with, where in Canada are you from?
Yeah, so I'm based in Toronto. I grew up like in the middle of nowhere, east of Kingston. But I, grew up, in the kind of Thousand Islands area for anybody who is like super familiar. I always start with like Kingston, and then I work my way east and get smaller and smaller to the actual town. But basically like rural Canada is where I grew up, and I've lived in Toronto for almost all of my adult life, aside from a stint in Prince Edward Island. And otherwise, I live in Greektown, and I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So one, thank you for the specificity. I like it when we can shout out where we're from, where we've been, and sort of the makeup of what makes us and who we are.
Sorry if I went too specific.
No, I love it. You know what? Because there's so much people from outside of Canada, right? Because Canada is such this massive country that people just don't get it. I find that if I say, "Oh, I'm from Toronto," people just go, "Oh, you're from somewhere from like nearly Ajax,
Right.
Burlington." So when you can shout out like a specific neighborhood, a specific city, I love it.
Right.
Speaking of which, one huge question I had. So when you first opened the book, one of the first pages is this. And me being the weird little nerd that I am, a lot of Google Maps, I found myself at the CN Tower, and I was like, okay, hold on, trace these lines. What is this place? And as far as I can tell, I want to make sure I got this right. The neighborhood you're basically this cluster is in, which is the three main characters.
Right.
It's roughly Wolseley Street and Denison Avenue, at least on Google Maps. Was that intentional, or is there something about that neighborhood you liked, or did you just want to put it somewhere in Toronto?
So the idea was that it would have a really close proximity to Kensington Market. Whitney and I, when we were brainstorming this book, and it had to be set in Toronto. That was always like, you cannot do a raccoon story in Toronto or in Canada and not do it like in Toronto. Like, it has to be here. And so we really wanted to. Sorry, I just realized we're like on video, and I just went to touch something, fix something
You're
quickly.
good. You're good.
Yeah, like we were like, what parts of Toronto do we want to showcase? What parts of the city are like visually interesting to look at, memorable, and kind of act like our own little version of Raccoon TripAdvisor? Like, where would you want to go? And in this first book, you know, we highlighted a few places like Kensington Market. So that's where you get the locations there on the map. And they live in a residential area that's populated by a lot of like old houses, like that area is. And then they're in a close proximity to a place that is inundated with restaurants and grocery stores, and Chinatown's right there too. So that was a big part of us wanting to place the family specifically there.
Awesome. Interestingly, oh God, it's more than 10 years ago now. When I was a younger person, for a stint, I lived in Kensington. And I think a part of why I like this book so much, and any Toronto native, I think, will relate at least in some capacity. I have a weird story where I used to work at Chapters in the morning, a part of their shelving crew. So I would leave my place in Kensington at like 4 or 5 o'clock to be there for like 5:36.
Right.
I'd do my shift, come home, cool. But one specific morning on garbage day, when all the bins are out with all the restaurants and everything, right? I got about halfway down one of the back streets there, headed towards wow, words are failing me. The major
headed towards the street.
Yeah, headed towards that gigantic mall at Yonge and Dundas Square. And
the Eden Center.
Thank you. And I was passing some garbage cans and some green bins, and I heard a rustle, and my every reaction went, and up popped the lid, and a little raccoon was just sort of holding onto the ledge, looking at me. I'm looking at him, and he's just like, we're good, right? Like, you're just gonna go, I can do. And I was like, all right, cool. And I left, and it was the weirdest interaction I've had with a raccoon, and since then I've liked them.
Oh, I love them. I feel like maybe we talked about this, but I used to hear there was a raccoon family for a really long time that lived in this dilapidated shed in the house next, kind of behind where I live. Okay. And a family of raccoons, 100% was living in there. And they would, in the beginning of the summer, the mama was like teaching them how to scavenge for garbage. But one of the babies would always get stuck in the bottom of the bin after garbage day. So I would wake up and I'd have my window open and I would hear that something was stuck in the bottom of the bin. So I would go out there and like wheel the garbage bin, empty it, and like let him free. But
Yeah.
this happened for the entire summer after garbage day. Like it wound up being a regular occurrence. And I saw this sweet raccoon ding dong repeat his mistakes over and over and over again. But also he got larger, he got chonkier, he got rounder as the time went on, until finally just before, they kind of like not quite hibernate, but like go into like a little bit more of, like chill time. He was so round and he was so chonky and he just like wasn't even crying to get out of the bin. It was like he was just kind of like resigned to being there and like expected me to like show up and save him. So that really, really endeared me to them. I mean, those were all great experiences. None of them attacked me, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So um, I love them. I dressed up as one for Halloween a few years ago, and then it went like viral, like Toronto viral. And
Awesome.
yeah, so I just think they're great.
Well, with such an amazing story when it comes to being near raccoons, because a lot of people are afraid of them for things like rabies and all that stuff, which
Right.
fair. But they're just critters trying to get some food in. I guess one thing I definitely want to ask then is, when it came to the inspiration for the story, given what you've mentioned about the house in the that was behind you, having them in it, your close reactions or interactions with them, it's pretty clear where some of the inspiration for the story came from when it comes to the trio here. But
Right.
what inspired the book to get you to write it?
Yeah, so Whitney and I connected several years ago. Um, so when I first sold Paranorthern, which is one of my other books, it like it's kind of my ode to Halloween and kind of like supernatural stories. And I was told by my editor that a comp title, like a comparable title to that I should look into as I was writing the script, was Whitney's work and her book Fake Blood. And I hadn't read it before. So I got introduced to Whitney's work via my editor, who was like a huge fan of Whitney. So I picked up Whitney's stuff. I just like loved her work. And we just like started following each other and like started talking. And when her other, so she has a spiritual sequel to Fake Blood called Long Distance. And Fake Blood deals with vampires, Long Distance deals with aliens. But it was also a comp title to Paranorthern, and they came out around the same time. So Whitney and I wound up doing like a bunch of press together, and we wound up just kind of like talking and realizing that our senses of humor were like the same. We were very similar people. And this is all to say that on that journey, I had her read Paranorthern, and she had the same kind of revelation. And we were both
Right
like,
on.
we're like friends now, right? And she posted it when Racc Pack came out, but 3 years and something months ago, she texted me and was just like, "So you want to do like a raccoon book?" And I was like, "Say less," And we just kind of wound up talking about wanting to do something heist related because, like, of course, oh yeah, this is my costume and Whitney's possum hat. So we love our trash children. But yeah, we wound up just like really connecting on like a personal level, and then we thought that we would be able to have like a really great professional uh collaborative experience together too. And the seed of Racc Pack was born simply by Whitney just being like, "Want to do a raccoon book?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
That's amazing. I'm glad you were able to so fluidly and easily click with somebody that, like you said, they were on your level. The humor, the interests, the style of genre you were after, all just sort of clicked and worked.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, she's so fantastic. And like, I mean, I could say I have nothing bad to say about anyone I have collaborated with. Everyone has been such a joy to work with, and I have been like blessed. But like Whitney is like my like creative like soulmate. Like we get each other, and like it's so much fun working on projects with her. And I truly, if for no other reason that I want to keep making these stories and telling stories with Whitney, I really just like need Racc Pack to like find its audience so we can keep collaborating forever.
Perfect. Well, we can absolutely try and help with that. I'm actually just going to bring up your web page for the book. We're at 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes now, and around now is when I like to ask for a Kickstarter campaign. You know, what are the tiers that people can get, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But your book is done. I'm holding it. People can go get it at
Yeah.
stores. They can come find you and get it in person with you, say at
Mhm.
Comic-Con this weekend in Toronto. Um, for the folks out there in YouTube land, I guess just to start with, so if someone should be happening to go to Toronto Comic Con this weekend, and when they come and meet you, when they say hi, when they wonderfully, as I have done, where is it? Get the book signed. Um, I guess for the in-person folks, do you know yet what rate you would be charging for Racc Pack, and what other books will you have with you?
Yeah, I don't charge tax, so I just kind of charge flat fees for everything. I charge $20 for a Racc Pack, which is still less than you would pay if you paid tax. And my paperbacks are usually like $15, but Racc Pack is a nice hardcover with a beautiful embossed cover.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
it's real nice. And yeah, I'll have copies of Para Northern. I will have copies of both Oh My Gods 1 and 2. And I will have some miscellaneous issues of My Little Pony Camp Big Hoof. We should have the trade of that later this year. But I'll also have a very special sneak peek at Pillow Talk, which again is my young adult graphic novel that's coming out in April. So I just received a couple of editions of that. And I will be showing that off at Comic-Con. So people will be able to get the very first sneak peek at it.
That's awesome. And where to go with this now? You know what? You've mentioned Pillow Talk, so let's jump into that real quick.
Sure.
So from what people can see here, it's wild. It's about pillow fighting.
Mm-hmm.
When I met you at Wayside Comics in North York, not North York, Newmarket,
Newmarket.
2-3 weeks ago now, you told me a pretty cool story. Would you please kindly retell it for the folks at home?
Happily. So Pillow Talk takes place in Toronto as well. And it is like a contemporary kind of slice of life story. But the setting for it is an underground pillow fight league that was like a very real thing in Toronto. It was a massive, like, kind of like indie sport hit in the city for a long time. And people turned out in droves to watch these absolutely bonkers matches. And a friend of mine was the president of this pillow fight league for a while. And they were doing a tryouts night where they were filming. The BBC was in town filming something and wanted to kind of do a feature on something very Toronto and wanted to bring back the pillow fight league. So my friend, who was the president, reached out and asked if I would be a part of this. And I did no research whatsoever. None. I was just like, absolutely. Sure. You need me? No problem. Like,
Friends ask for help, you help, right?
I like to think that's the kind of friend I am. If somebody's like, I need something, I'm just like, say less, I'm there. Great. So I did no research. I just thought, it would be like pillow fighting, like you think of what you think of like at a sleepover. And it was not that. It was not. I watched just before, like, I had to go on. I watched this petite woman who was like, I would say like 5'4". Her name was Carmen Monoxide. And she absolutely tackled this grown man to the ground that was like so much bigger than her. She tackled him to the ground with a pillow and then put him in a pillow chokehold until he tapped out. And like, they were like, okay, you have to go up after this. And I was like, no, What? So it's more like roller derby or like WWE than it is what you would think of like a conventional pillow fight. Anything goes as long as the pillow is the first point of contact. So technically speaking, you could like hit someone through the pillow as long as the pillow hits them first. So it's like really scrappy, it's really violent, and it's like surprisingly gritty. So this was like a thing. I fought in 2 matches that night against 2 people. And at the second match, I wound up like rolling my ankle and
Ugh.
I thought I broke it. So then I had to go, like, I stayed for like the night. I was like, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm just like, you know, but it was clear that my ankle was like not okay. And I wound up having to go to the ER and then having to explain to like the nurses, the intake people, the doctors, and the x ray people all like what I thought I did to my ankle and just had to continually tell people that I was like in an extreme pillow fight like match. And they were just like, excuse me, what? They were delighted, but also so confused. So it was quite the journey. But I'm really grateful for it too, because it brought me this wacky story that I truly didn't think would find a home, but it's coming out soon. And I really, really hope people like it. It's kind of stranger than fiction, but it's also based very much on something that truly existed. And we are going to be doing a big launch with TCAF this year.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
a little like we haven't formally announced that yet. So like I'm telling you, but also like don't tell anyone, but like tell everyone.
Yeah, I hear you.
So if it's going to be really fun, I'm hoping to bring back the league for one night. So if that sounds like something you're interested in checking out, be sure to like follow along. I'll be posting up event details as we get closer to that. And whether we do these matches or not, it's going to be a really good time. So
That is absolutely wild. So very Toronto, like it feels right, which is
it's
a weird thing to say, but true.
yeah. And it's actually now, so the Toronto League no longer exists, but it has been picked up by the USA and it is an official combat sport in the USA. MMA fighters now like participate in the pillow fight. Like it's not called the Pillow Fight League anymore because I think the guy in Toronto has like the rights to that specifically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But pillow fighting is an actual combat sport based on Toronto's league that was like created and formed here. And now it is like a pay-per-view event that you can like watch from the comfort of your own home as MMA people clobber each other with pillows.
That is wild. So very unexpected, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave you
People gotta go check it out.
speechless.
Yeah, honestly, it's so off the wall. It is so. If someone, I was downtown Toronto, and someone was like, "Hey, you want to go check out this pillow fight show?" I'd be like, "Yeah, all right." You know, like it's not something
Yeah.
that in Toronto would phase me, but it's just wild to think about. And from your website here, it looks like it's coming out officially April 30th.
Yes.
Again, launching with TCAF later this year, which is super cool. I hope you
Yeah.
can maybe have some of the fighters there or do a match. I don't know. That would be super cool.
Yeah. We're really, really hoping to do that. And I'm like pretty sure, fingers crossed, that artist Mel Valentine is going to come up from Chicago for this as well. So it should be fantastic. I'm just like hoping and praying that everything aligns and I have the vision in my head come to fruition.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on that. I know that TCAF does garner a fair bit of like international draw in, like not a fair bit, a whole lot. So yeah, I hope Mel can find their way up and you guys can absolutely dominate that opening.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
For sure. Now, one thing that I sort of mentioned earlier, we had met at Wayside in Newmarket. One of the things that really caught my eye about you when I first saw you was your ability to interact with your crowd. Because to anyone who goes to any Comic-Con, I'm sure has seen dozens, if not more, of comic book writers and artists who are probably sat back kind of like I am now at their table. If it's an artist, they've probably got a pad and they're drawing. If it's a writer, they might be talking to somebody, and I have, and they don't feel entirely engaged with the folks, the guests, I guess. I don't know, the patrons. But you, however, are on when you're doing your thing. You are engaging with the people. Given the age range of your book, it is little kids, which is even more impressive because you're attaining their attention and
Right.
getting out your pitch and doing all that. So I guess, how did you come to be like that? How did you develop that skill? Does it come naturally? Have you had to work on it? What is the Cooke method?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the first and foremost, like I have a foundation in like retail, and customer service in general. I did like 10 years in a variety of, probably more than 10 years really, in a variety of like customer service roles working retail. And I like truly believe that every single person on this earth, like no matter whether they're born into money or not, should work retail or in the service industry regardless. Everybody would be so much more kind and compassionate and understanding if
Yeah.
you worked retail over Christmas. Like everyone would be a lot better humans, I think. But that being said, I didn't have any other choice. I worked retail to make money and to pay my bills. And I was fortunate enough to start when retail was just like retail. You're selling products around the store and you're expected to kind of like talk to customers and be nice. But then as time went on, I was in the era of the upsell. I worked at HMV when the cash crashers came on board and the HMV card, and you had to upsell them and they track those metrics, and you have to know how to talk to people because like they track those things, and like you have to know how to sell stuff to people and what, if you can kind of push them or if you can kind of like offer things, and then kind of like you really have to know how to read people. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but like you get a good sense of like what people are like after. And that all aside, like I was deeply introverted and I never really liked talking, doing public speaking as a kid. It was always something that made me really anxious. But I've always liked to talk. I love to talk about things that I'm passionate about. I love to talk about things that like excite me. And like if somebody's like into something too, I want to hear that. Like I'm genuinely like, if a kid wants to come up to me and just like, oh, you have a dinosaur shirt, can I tell you about my favorite dinosaur? Yeah, you can. Tell me everything. Tell me everything you know about dinosaurs. Like I think there is merit in being genuinely interested in your audience and your crowd. People can sense when you're kind of like disconnected, and like I get it. Like a lot of us are like introverted and anxious, me included. I am so anxious at all times, but I also really like meeting cool people, and I like hearing people's stories. One of the great perks of Racc Pack I've found out since it's been out is everybody has a raccoon story and they want to tell me about their raccoon stories. And like, that's great. I think putting myself like on and kind of being like at Comic-Con, I am like out there, Stephanie. I want to talk to people. I want to accept compliments. I want to be able to like just be attentive and help people who have questions. And I think just being open and as sincere and genuine of a person as you can in those moments, people can sense those sort of things. They want to engage with you. I don't know, like kids have always just like been like really drawn to me. I feel like I'm very like approachable. And this is like before I like became Miss Frizzle with like my shirts. Like kids just like are like
nice.
Very much like, okay, we're friends now. And I'm like, oh, all right, great. So that part kind of came naturally to me as far as kind of interacting with my audience. The rest of it kind of is just like years of putting myself out there and like making myself be comfortable and like getting comfortable with that. But yeah, like I think there's some things you can't unfortunately kind of like teach people. You just kind of have to experience on your own and figure out
Mm.
what works for you. But I think trying to talk to people with a sincerity and finding a connection with people really helps me. And asking people questions and knowing when people just like are really anxious too and don't want to be engaged with. That's why I have little like shelf talkers that sit in front of my books that give you a breakdown of like the age. They give you a breakdown of like the comparable titles so that if you don't want to talk to me, that's also okay. And I try to kind of just like make it accessible and be as understanding of people's like needs and like potentially I'm neurodivergent, you know, like I have ADHD and like my brain is just like all over the place, and giving people the tools that they're comfortable with as far as interaction and sales and stuff goes a long way.
I love it. That was wonderful. Like it. How to put this? I have seen so many people, and I don't mean to throw shade on anyone who I've ever run into at a Comic-Con, because I'm one of the few people I've come to understand who, when I go to a con, I start at one end of Artist Alley and I'm like, hey, tell me about the thing. Tell me about, and I, you know, because of what I do, it helps. And I cannot imagine, and I think I'd like to hear from you on this in just a second, about how tiring 12 hours of con vending can do and be, and mentally exhausting. But I have run into a lot of tables where it's like I sort of said earlier, it's a person, usually a guy who looks a lot like me, just being like, hey, right? And like that's I don't know, the way that you approach this, the energy that you bring, the light, the brightness, whatever you want to call it, you absolutely kill it, Stephanie. And yeah, just when I was there, I snapped a couple shots of you, and you had this huge crowd of kids around you, and you really did, now that you've said it, kind of remind me of Miss Frizzle with all the students that were just enamored with you. So yeah, kudos to you.
Thanks.
How? Because I feel like you'll have a really good answer for this. How do you fight off the fatigue of being on like that for 8 to 12 hours at con?
Yeah, that can be like tricky. Like Fan Expo and like Comic-Con have pretty like grueling hours. You know, like TCAF's a little less punishing. There's 2 days and the hours are a lot shorter. Whereas again, like when you are in Fan Expo, you're in a basement, there's no sunlight, you have no kind of passage of time, people are everywhere. It's impossible to like get up to go to the bathroom without it being like a whole ordeal to get food. And so it can be kind of just like you're in the slog. For me, it's like making sure that I've brought enough like water, snacks, things that are going to like keep my energy up, you know. I take usually like the day after the con off so that I know I have time to replenish and I can just kind of like be wholeheartedly in this. I do try and like I don't tend to stay up like super late these days. Like I don't drink really anymore. So like I'll do dinners and stuff with people and like, you know, like mocktails or something for a bit, but like I've gone past the point of my life where like I want to stay up until like 2 or 3 drinking. So like that thankfully also sets me up for success the next day because I'm not immediately like hungover or like my throat is like my voice is gone from like screaming all night. And like I've lived that life. There's no shade whatsoever. I have been there and I've put my time in and I just like know how I want my cons to go now. And so it's just kind of like giving myself the most opportunity for success like during the day of the show. You know, like I think another thing, I'm circling back for like 1 second just to my previous thing too, because you kind of talk about like sometimes with like other like creators and stuff. And something that I feel like I've noticed too is that a lot of people, and this is something I struggle with, I'm prefacing this with that also, but accepting a compliment. And it's something that I think a lot of us really struggle with. We're all kind of dealing with like imposter syndrome. And like for me, being able to, like, if a kid especially comes to your table and is like, wow, I loved this thing, like being self-deprecating and being like, it's okay, I guess, or like, it's not my best work or whatever, it does not serve me. Like, a kid is not going to understand self-deprecating like humor, you know. And I think just being like gracious and like not fighting people on the compliments. They don't want to like be in this like, no, like you're good, and you're like, no, but I'm not. They're not like there to debate you on whether or not your own work is like good. So I think things like that too, though, do contribute to like kind of like keep conversations going. They can ask questions if they want. And that kind of like, there are different kinds of questions throughout the day. And so everything kind of keeps me on my toes. It's not like there's like one thing where I'm always just like, well, this is my like stock image answer, you know, like I people come up for like different things and want to talk about different things. And so being able to kind of be functioning to like answer those for people is important to me.
That's amazing. Like I feel like you have gone to many cons, many book openings, comic shops where they've let you set up a table and do your thing, because you have such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to how to sell your product, how to sell your personality, and like you said, like actually connect with people, understand the audience. And I find maybe most importantly of all is have a level of respect for them. Obviously you should, respect everyone until they give you a reason not to, but you want to meet people where they're at and not try and bring them to you. And there's something really cool about that, Stephanie. Like I find you're very unique for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, one fun thing that I've learned is because I've only ever gone to cons as me, right? As just a dude who wants to go talk to people, go buy some comic books, look at some cool toys, whatever.
Right.
From my other comic book creators who've been on my show, who've sort of kept in touch, I've learned that they go through and they do a lot of really cool things. They get to meet a lot of cool people, and they're also interested in the nerdy things that the show's about.
Right.
So between selling books, making sure you're hydrated, and keeping sane in the craziness that is Toronto Comic Con, what do you go for? What is it that you're peaked about? What's your thing?
I'm a pretty like well-rounded like geek. Like I love video games, I love comics, I love graphic novels, I love zines, I love prints. Like you can kind of see like around here a little bit. I've got like Fiona Staples, Josie and the Pussycat. I've got a Mummy poster here that's like from I want to say WonderCon. I can't remember the artist right now. My friend got it for me. But like I love to support artists. Like I love to support artists, and I love to get prints. If originals are like, I want people to price their work as it should be priced and what it's worth. But my wallet can only afford so much. So if I find like cool originals or cool things that like catch my eye, I love to pick them up. I have like some fun little like beside my desk, like original kind of coasters, but like they're dinosaurs and like they're painted.
Oh, cool.
I have above my desk by Lauren, oh my God, Mowat, who's incredible. She did this like series of Renaissance animals. Like she did critters, but like in Renaissance, like genuine Renaissance clothing. Like she was doing a study of Renaissance clothing and then made the creatures that she bid them on animals. So I have like a pigeon, I have a bat, I have a raccoon, and she was just like absolutely wonderful. She did a portrait of my cat for me, and like just like,
oh, that's so cool.
So many cool things. I have beside me here, sometimes I love a gimmick. I love a gimmick. So people will be like, let me draw you as a cat. And I'm like, great. Portraits as me of a cat. Or like I have one that's like somebody, yes. This is I love Lauren. She's so talented. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I have this bat that's there.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. I love it. And let me see. I have this pigeon. And there's a raccoon somewhere too. And I also own
We
that
gotta
one as
find that.
well.
Oh, which one?
Oh, I bought one more dog one, but I don't know if that we passed that one. Maybe. Oh, yes, this dog. Oh, yeah. I bought the raccoon and the dog one right beside it, but I gave the dog one to my friend Tate Bromble, who is incredible. He did Barbalian. He's wonderful. I love him. He's just, that is his now.
Amazing.
So I love original art. I love getting like enamel pins. I love getting cool stickers, and I love supporting fun, silly, original, like gimmicky things. I have commissions of me both as a cat and as a pigeon. So
Love
you
it.
do a gimmick and I will buy it. But anyways, I love video game stuff. I love all of the things, and I'm especially drawn to Artist Alley. I love the guests, but I usually see them also at like other shows, and like the Artist Alley are like the people I see less of. So when I'm like perusing things, I love to support my friends. I love to see them too. But the Artist Alley are like the up and coming creators, the people who like haven't been given like a guest booth yet. They're like the future talent, and like I am really always stoked to see what's up and coming, and like my pals who are selling their prints and what new cool stuff they have. Like I love it.
That's awesome. Like, thank you for that. The reason I say that is there are, at least in the social circles that I travel, which is mostly comic book nerds, there is a sort of a weary disdain for Artist Alley, right? Because comic book nerds, we tend to be really pigeonholed in the one thing we like, and that's comics. But yeah, like a routine that a friend of mine and myself have gotten into with every con is you get there first. For us, I go by and I walk through all the comic creators just to see who's where, maybe say a couple hellos, but and then we scout through all of Artist Alley to see everything, to then be able to go, okay, I gotta go buy that, I want to buy that, this is so cool. So thank you for supporting the amazing, weird, wonderful, creative folks in Artist Alley who just make the cool stuff.
It's the best. I save like so many people's information. Like I take cards all the time, and I know that's like a thing where people are just like, oh, that's not a sale, but I genuinely like hoard them, and like I think about people like for future projects. Like when I see art, like my editor brain is on, I'm like, who here, like I like their stuff, but is there anyone here I'd love to work with in the future? Like it's just like it's like a multi-faceted thing. Like there's selfishly, I just want to buy things and like make my apartment cooler, but also like what else are people doing? I love people come to me sometimes, they'll like, do you know any artists that's good for this? And so like I love knowing who's out there, who's doing things, and like who's making cool stuff, and trying to like help connect people.
Right on. Well, real quick then, I will show you something. Because there's a gentleman that I connected with in Niagara at the second annual Garden City Comic Con, which just happened last year, and he makes, so he's doing like I want to say a master's or a PhD, something like that, and it's all basically in archaeology, like
cool,
digging up, super cool. And he took that little lovely nerdy project and he fused it with his abilities. Little boutique, bear with me.
No worries.
Because he got, there we go, Well, that's a cool one. You're a gamer. You'll click into this.
Maybe. Oh God. I guess it depends on what the gaming specifically is, but go on.
I'm sure of it. So he's made specimen samples of the Pikmin, for
That's
instance,
so cute. Oh my
right?
gosh. I
Um,
love that.
yeah, like he's got a bunch of them. He's got obviously tons of pins. He makes ornaments,
That's
dice
so
holders.
cool. Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and he's got these like I bought one for my partner because she's really into Zelda. So he's got one of these where it's the different components you can get from the most recent Zelda games when you're building up
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that
So that's a
also.
cool
Yeah,
little nerdy thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Thought you were gonna get like niche on me for a second. I was like, oh
No,
God, no,
God, no.
I don't know. But no, I
Uh,
do in fact know Zelda, yes, and
yeah.
Pikmin.
Yeah.
And Pokemon.
So that's a quick shout out, I guess, to Little Root Boutique. But that being said, we've kind of strayed, Stephanie. I want to get back to
Oh, so
Racc
sorry.
Pack real quick. Oh, it's all good.
My superpower is being able to derail any conversation. So like, great, you're welcome.
So really quick for the folks out there, they know that these two are raccoons. That is
Yeah.
a possum. Who, by the way, I love the fact, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but I love the fact that no one in the book ever bothers to address the fact that this is a possum. They're just like, cool, you're a raccoon. We're totally cool with that.
He thinks he's a raccoon.
Yeah, and you know what? Why not? But let the people know who these people are. What are their personalities like, or the animals, I suppose?
Sure. Well, I can tell you in heist terms. So, like, Dusty is like the brains. He thinks he's the brains. I mean, like he thinks he's like an outside the box thinker. Dusty's the one in the plaid there. So like he is kind of the head honcho of the family, is trying to kind of like provide and kind of like make a plan for them to eat and kind of thrive. They all have little kind of Canadianisms. So Scraps is the possum, and he has the little Maple Leafs jersey on. And he's their gadget guy. So he collects garbage and he creates new things from that. He makes gadgets, and a lot of our gadgets are inspired by various. Whitney and I did something called the Caper Cast, which was like a podcast all about like heist movies for a long time. And so we used a lot of our favorites as inspiration for the gadgets, and then kind of just try to like be like, how would we make this with like trash though? So he's their gadget guy, and he's very smart. He's very sweet. As we mentioned, he's a possum who thinks he's a raccoon, but he fell into this family of raccoons as a baby and then was raised as a raccoon. So he doesn't know otherwise. He just thinks he has alopecia and his tail fur might grow in someday. And then Riri, who again is full name is Recycling Bins. Yes, good old Riri. She's like the buff, like she's the muscle. She's very strong. And she is kind of like the big sister. She worries about her siblings. She worries about Dusty's plans. He's smart, but he's impulsive. So sometimes he doesn't super think things through. So she's kind of just like anxious all the time for her brothers, who are sweet, well-meaning ding-dongs. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but so when there's a scene in the book where there's a press conference with the mayor and they're unveiling a new green bin for the city. And that is based on a very true thing that happened. There really was like a press conference to unveil these bins. There really was this like war on raccoons. And they created, they spent millions to develop these bins. And within a day of them being rolled out, the raccoons had broken into them, and they thought they were being smart because they had like handles that you had to lock or unlock. But what they didn't take into consideration is if you push the bins over, the lid will pop off. So the raccoons, even though they have little grabby hands, they weren't like opening and closing the bins. Although we do have a specific strain of raccoons here in Toronto that's like evolved, and we've done this to them because we keep making them smarter with puzzles and stuff.
No, stop.
I'm serious. I'm so serious.
God.
We have like a strain that's like I can't remember where I heard it from, but like there's like the Ologies podcast. There's like a bunch of like raccoon researchers in Toronto specifically that are researching them and like all this stuff because like they've like slightly evolved here and we've made them smarter. But I'm coming back to this bin for like 2 seconds. So what they didn't account for is they've made it lock proof, like the raccoons are not going to get into it. But if you tip over the bins, the lid pops open. So they made the raccoons stronger. They made them have to push the bins over. So Riri, who is our muscle, comes along with her brothers, and while they dumpster dive, she is the muscle that like pushes over the bins and helps them get into the bins. So that is also based on very real Toronto raccoon science.
That's wild. NPR is calling them Toronto's Uber raccoons.
Yeah. NPR has done like a ton of series like on them. Like there are like raccoon like podcast science episodes. Like it's so fascinating and like I love it. I saw my very first wild possum this weekend too, by the way. And I was delighted. It was just an A+ time.
Was it just sort of scampering across the road, or were you out somewhere?
Yeah. It was coming back from an Oscars party with some friends, and they were like, "That's a possum!" And I've only ever seen raccoons in the city. I'd never seen a live possum. But like, that was like a nice little moment for me. I was like, Scraps lives in the city for real. It's true.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a coincidence! Like,
so delighted.
Things are just lining up for you when it comes to everything about Racc Pack, which is awesome. I do have a question for you about the book for the folks out there watching. Sure. Without getting yourself in trouble, obviously, if someone comes to Comic-Con this weekend, $20 cash in hand, probably have you sign it, which would be awesome. Yeah. If they're not going to be, say if someone's outside of Toronto or whatever, they can't make it to Comic-Con, which is sad, but hey. Where is the best place for them to get a copy of the book that supports you the best?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anywhere is great. Like, all of those sales trickle back to Whitney and myself, and they stack up and show our publisher that these are, like, books that the people want. I am, like, a big, obviously, supporter of your local comic book shop and your local independent bookstore. So if you have one, nearby that you love to support, and you don't necessarily, if they have it in stock, great, please. But all of these books are orderable as well from their suppliers. So if they don't have it in stock, ask, because they 1,000% can get it in for you. And I always would rather a great local store get those sales and the support from you. It makes me feel good. It makes you feel good. It makes the owners feel good. It's wonderful all around. So that's always like my first and foremost thing. But like, we don't all have access to that. If you're buying things like, from like Indigo, Amazon, whatever, like I get it. There's no judgment. All of that supports us. But like, you know what? That's great. I love that. That's helpful. But if you have a good used bookstore and you find it there, I'm not mad about it. I love a used bookstore. That doesn't get back to me, but like, you do you. You do whatever is in the means for you. Check it out at the library even. I love it. I grew up on libraries because I didn't really have a lot of, like, our family didn't have money. So like, I just read everything at the library and it saved my life. So like, you do whatever is within your means. And in Toronto and in Canada, we have the public lending right. So don't ever, if anybody in Canada tells you that libraries don't support authors, it's a Canada-wide system that gives money to creators who have books in library systems. So like, you are supporting people at every level. You are good.
I dig it. And yeah, that is actually something I've only recently myself learned, that say if Racc Pack is founded in library somewhere, you do get, I don't know the financials behind how it works, but I do understand that you get some small percentage of whatever funds are made, which is sick.
Yeah. So like, and it depends on how many creators are on a book. It depends on a bunch of different things. And you have a maximum to a certain number of times it could be kind of like included in a library. but like it always helps creator. It helps me every year. I always forget about it, and then I get a nice little check, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's very nice, and yeah, like again, I love libraries, and I'd be down for people to check out books regardless of whether we got a ping back, but we do. So you're helping creators no matter what. Libraries have to buy those books from the publisher, so it comes from somewhere. So yeah, and it also supports the creators in Canada. So supposing they are signed up for it. But if you're a creator watching this and you aren't signed up for the public lending right, you should do that because it's currently open, and it's only open for like a couple of months a year usually.
All right. Well, I will have to tweet and post about that so that folks can know. Thank you for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Now, Stephanie, we've only got about 5-ish minutes left in the hour.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't be.
Awesome.
One quick important question I want to ask for those folks going to Toronto Comic Con this weekend. Where can they find you?
Yeah. So I will be at table P127. So I will be between Gerhard and Megan Huang, who I did an amazing book called Life with, which you will be able to see this weekend if you come visit, and you can have Megan and I both sign it. So that's where I'll be. I'm on 2 panels. They're both on Friday. I'm on a panel on Friday about making all ages comics and kids comics.
Oh, right.
And that's at Friday at noon. And then I'm going to be, this is brand new. We just confirmed it yesterday. I'm going to be on a panel at 6 p.m. with the Fandom Show. And I will be talking about one of my all-time favorite fandoms. So if you want to find out more about that, you can join us at 6 p.m. on Friday. I have all the details on my website, which I've noticed on the little ticker tape there.
Absolutely.
But if you go to the appearances page, I have all the panels I'm on. I'm going to post on Instagram this week the schedule. But my table is on there already, and I hope to see people there.
Perfection. And really quick. So this is the map of the theaters and such. And for level 300 here, this little... Oh, is it gonna? There we go. For level 300 here.
Oh, we're close to like
where
the
you're gonna be.
celebrity area. Wow, they're
Yeah.
letting us so close to them this year. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Perfect. Well, that is where folks can find you. Get Racc Pack, as well as some of your other works in person. Learn about Pillow Talk. Now, just to sort of close out the show, Stephanie, my last 2 easy questions. I hope they're easy. One, what is it that you're currently reading?
Oh, I've been reading. I do read a lot of like comics and graphic novels. Right now, I'm in a big like novella kick, just like fun little short stories. I love Tor books who like do like a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi, and they're like my like creme de la creme. So I'm reading a book right now called Thornhedge, which is by T. Kingfisher. It's a pen name for Ursula Vernon, who is a creator who does a ton of comics and graphic novels as well. But T. Kingfisher does absolutely incredible fantasy that just like really scratches like a specific itch for me. And this one is like a dark fairy tale kind of retelling. I'm only like 1 chapter in though. So yeah, I've been checking that out, and I'm really, really stoked to find out what happens.
That looks super cool. Fantastic. Folks, go check it out. Author T. Kingfisher, Thornhedge.
Yeah, she does like a lot of like cool like horror stuff too, and just like cool horror and fairy tales, and but like dark retellings, and oh, I love it. I love it. It's very much my jam.
Beautiful. That's definitely my last easy question for you. Who do you think we should have on the show next?
Oh, well, I feel like I've name dropped a bunch of people so far here, which I think would all be fantastic guests. Megan Huang, incredible. Tate Bromble, who is just like killing it right now. Tate, again, I mentioned Barbalian.
Mm-hmm.
He's also doing a ton of stuff with Tiny Onion, James Tinian. He's doing, oh my God, I'm forgetting the series he's doing right now. But he's been doing like a ton of stuff within the Someone is Killing the Children verse.
Oh, okay.
and he's just like, he's phenomenal. And I truly think Tate is going to be one of the next superstars that we see in the industry. He's got like mentors like Jeff Lemire and James Tinian, and I think you should check him out. And also, you know, like Whitney Gardner, she's great. Mel Valentine, they're great too. You know, like I'll give you a smorgasbord of names.
I love it. Well, Stephanie, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and chat with me about Racc Pack tonight.
Thanks for having me. This was great, and I'll happily come back anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And for the folks at home, absolutely like, comment, subscribe. Go to stephaniecooke.ca. Check out all of Stephanie's work, buy all of her books, and if you're going to Toronto Comic Con this weekend, please do swing by her table. Go to the things that she's doing, the sketch battles, the panels, and enjoy. Stephanie, thank you kindly, and we'll see you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize, never miss new comic day, yeah, no surprise, so where's my no prize, check the letter columns, can't find issue 2, collect